welcome again. We've got a really good, top-notch panel with interesting things to say and a wealth of experience about Latin America. To my left, to my immediate left, Ricardo Salinas, of the eponymous Grupo Salinas, the top man. It goes from stores to mobile phone networks in Mexico. Nelson Ortiz, a former president of the Caracas Stock Exchange, and David in the middle there, David Brillembourg, who's the president of the Brilla Group. So what we're going to talk about, we decided, was what the US gets wrong about that land that starts about 6 miles down the road there, or the lands that go from 6 miles down the road there for the rest of the planet. Ricardo, first of all, what do these people here get wrong about your country?
Mostly everything. Yeah, the title is Narcotics or Business. It's not like we're fighting narcotics from the business side. It's just what's in your mind when you think about Mexico. And us who belong to the media know very well that impressions are created and they stick there for a long time. So most people, when they think about Mexico, well, they'll think about crime. You know? Maybe they'll think about, now, of course, swine flu is a big thing. Good heavens, that won't do. Corruption, illegal aliens, that's a nice one. No, they're illegal, really bad people, and aliens from space. So why don't we think about illegal employers? Because they're your driver and your gardener and your waiter. You know? So all of these things are in the minds of people when they think about Mexico. And it's a real pity because now my country has 106 million people. It's very close to the largest economy in the planet. It's closer than New York and Washington from here. You can only take 2 hours to get there. It's got a huge history. We have the first university in the Americas. We have a fantastic culture, a mixture of 3 things: the Aztec, the Maya, the Spanish, and of course the modern Mexico. And there's great entertainment in my country in terms of beaches, of ecotourism, of music,
sure.
And of course in business. It's a tremendously competitive environment. And we compete against the likes of Walmart, Citibank, and Telmex, so we know a thing or two about competition. These are very big companies, very efficient competition. So I think there's a huge potential in Mexico. The thing is, you need a good partner to show you around, and then you're on your own.
David, you were born in, if I recall, Venezuela. Now you live in Mexico, and you've done a string of mergers and acquisitions down there. Should I say down there? In that land, in those lands, so you know it inside out. Tell us what America gets wrong, North America gets wrong about those lands.
I think Ricardo is it's right in their assessment. There's a lot of very competitive environments and a lot of talented people out there competing with misconceptions about the complexities. We see it, especially in the case of Mexico. I agree 100% with the assessment. It's a country that has not only tourism as a base, but it has an industrial, it has a competitive environment in terms of exports of people through the money transfer business, which is a very solid, large business. So it's a very diversified and complex environment in terms of competition. I think as you go south, the same way with Colombia, and you go through countries like Venezuela, which we are going to go into in depth, which have stumbled into a very loss of total identity. And now you have a conflict of a significant amount from different classes, almost like in some cases like Africa, where you had the whites versus the local native fighting against each other. I think you come to that point in time in the case of Venezuela.
So it's a failure to understand complexity and nuance, and it's a grabbing of stereotypes.
Correct. Still a land of many opportunities as you move down, or in the case of Venezuela specifically, there's a lot of trade opportunities and a lot of financial opportunities in terms of quick financial trades. So there's still opportunity, and that's part of I think that we are discussing with Nelson, which is why still businesses are operating in Venezuela, and the reason is they're still making money. up to now. So there's been a lot of oil money being deployed, so there's going to be a lot of liquidity, and so that's been the problem in the transition.
Nelson, what do people in North America and the US get wrong, and what do they get right about your country?
I think, contrary to what Ricardo said, I think most of what you hear from Venezuela is right. But
it's that bad.
Sorry to say.
Unfortunately, yes, it's very bad. Well, it's a country where there are more people killed than there are in Iraq every day. Last year, over 15,000 people were killed by violence in Venezuela. That's probably over 40 persons per day. Not to speak about kidnappings. There are two types of kidnappings. One is what they call the targeted, when they're looking for their wealthy individuals, and there is an average of 1.3 per day. And then they have the express kidnaps, where you have an average these days probably around 15 to 20 every day. So if you imply what does that mean for a business environment, and for everything, it's certainly very shocking. But besides that, as David was saying, or David, Venezuela, it's a place that it's very much linked to oil, and because of oil, if the oil business is doing well, you can do a lot of money. For example, yesterday, I remember talking to Ricardo, I was mentioning to him that from 2003 to 2007, the index of the Caracas Stock Exchange multiplied by a fall of 10, by 10-folds, from 6,000 to 60,000. And then he told me, yes, but then you have to take into account the dollar denomination or inflation. I said, no. If we take into account dollar denomination, it was not by 10-fold, but was by probably 12 or 13 times, because the dollar or the Bolivar appreciated during those periods by 20, 25%. So one of those kind of paradoxes, and that's why up to now, business has been booming in Venezuela. The economy is growing at 8, 9% per year.
Is the real problem for business the government, as the perception is, or is it an atmosphere of crime?
Certainly crime has started to become more, they're both competing, and there's a lot of people that think that part of the government model is not to fight crime very effectively. So the upper middle class and the people that could be a threat for the long-term staying could have to leave the country. But yeah.
Let me turn to you two. You make the point that people outside get things wrong, that we live on cliches, and I'm as guilty as anybody. But having said that, there is a drugs war in the north of Mexico, Ricardo. Mm-hmm. It is real.
Well, not only in the north of Mexico, and everywhere. The problem with the drugs is you have to understand what's creating it to be able to attack it efficiently. Up to now, it's really been a joke, because what we do is we look for the capos, the drug lords, and take them down. What that creates, of course, is you decapitate an organization, and then immediately within the organization, different people try to stand out. So they fight against themselves, and they fight against other gangs. So this gangland violence that we're seeing in my country is directly caused by the action of the authorities against them. Okay, but this is a never-ending story. I mean, you get one, and then you get 5 more, and then you get one, and then you get 5 more. It's exponential.
That's like blaming the police for crime, though, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. What's happening is there's a huge, very lucrative market in the United States. And the Americans are very good at finger-pointing, because they're never, responsible for anything. But and I have to say it, even though we're here, and I know many people don't think like this, but usually the American point of view is, oh, we got to seal the border so that these drugs and illegal aliens don't come into our nice country. Of course, the other side of the equation is, here the druggies and the drug addicts have a lot of money, and that money is going back into our countries, in Mexico and Colombia and everybody. And together with guns, which are being exported from the United States to Mexico without any controls, are creating huge havoc, crime, and misery in our countries. So really, it's a losing proposition. This drug and war is totally lost. It's an unwinnable position. So what needs to happen is we really need to address the problem. What's the problem? We have a health problem with the drug addicts. Let's deal with that. And then we have a crime problem that derives from all the huge amounts of money in the business. So if we give away the drugs, give them away for free, not marketing with branding, we give them away for free in the health system. Well, we'll just continue with the problem, but we need to look at this as a health issue. We need to give away the drugs so the money is not available for the criminals and for corruption and for violence. That's the only path out of this. But, you know, it's not going to happen. Maybe it is. I think we need to imagine a future which is better and then try to get to that.
David, you were making a point earlier before we came on the stage about how if you hammer the drugs industry in one place, it moves.
Yes, there's a big concern on the new government policies about supporting the drug war in the case of specifically Mexico, that it's going to spill over, obviously, into other countries, especially now into both the Caribbean and in the specific case of Venezuela. We're seeing it that as the Colombian drug war has been successful at pushing out the drug dealers, they have spilled into Venezuela, which is part of the problem in Venezuela also, that it now become a hub of the guerrillas and also the drug dealing, and also into Central America, where you have huge problems in terms of the gangs, which are basically drug distribution networks. So you're finding that as you move into policy into a big country like Colombia or Mexico, that spills over into the Caribbean or Central America or South America. So that's going to be a major problem, because you're going to, again,
And it's interesting because, you know, in my country, the drug business started booming after Colombia clamped down on their business. So we got sort of inherited. And before that, it was in the Caribbean, and then it went to Central America, and went to Colombia. So it's, you know, like impossible situation.
Yeah, which shows that there is a problem also with the supply side, with the demand side. It's not only the supply. I think there's been a lot more focus on the supply than on the demand. So,
no, plus, and also, Nelson, if you think of it, this is a $100 billion industry.
Exactly.
Drug trafficking.
And it's a difficult argument, isn't it, with narcotics to say, if you ease supply, then you get rid of the problem. Because it's nasty old stuff, that heroin.
It's nasty, but you know, Americans were there and done it before. They had prohibition in the 20s, and that didn't fix the alcoholic problem. And then they realized it and changed it and took down prohibition. That was one of the few amendments to the US Constitution, was to prohibit alcohol and then to allow it again.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's an excellent point. And besides that, if you see, the fight against drugs has been a failure. So we have to recognize, as Hillary Clinton recognized that the policy against Cuba failed, and then you should need a new policy, the fight against drugs, it's a failure. And one of the first things I would do is to decriminalize the production of drugs. So you will erase not only the business for that kind of thing, but all the underworld that is behind the production of drugs.
You mentioned Cuba, which begs the question of a new administration in Washington. What do the three of you expect realistically from the new administration for business in your countries? David, go on.
Well, it's in the case, a specific case of Venezuela, and I'll address the Venezuelan case. I think that it's a major challenge that it's on the last on the list of priorities. Why? Because obviously you have 2 wars to run, and you have major situations with countries that you need to recoup relationships. So Venezuela is still a small piece of the overall pie. And the reality is that the only thing that, and Chavez has been democratically elected, so there's nothing you can go after that. Even though he may behave in ways that are not democratic, he is democratically elected by the majority of the population. So you're facing a situation that it's a deadlock. He's starting to crap more and more into obviously media and all the other things. And as he expropriates more stuff and he doesn't pay and he doesn't do this, then it's going to become more obvious. But I think it's going to be a very tough situation for Washington to have a very clear policy in the case of Venezuela, just because of the democratically elected situation.
Sure, but let me bring in Nelson then. I mean, what's the way that President Obama should deal with Mr. Chavez? Nicey or toughy?
Well, first of all, let me mention, there was an event that was very much debated or criticized by some, which was when Obama was very nice to Chavez.
Great picture.
Yeah.
With a book.
A couple of weeks ago and his book. But I think Obama didn't have any other option. I think that he should create this tension because not only what it means to the U.S. in terms of oil supply, but also to the relation with the rest of the region. So I certainly think that he should try to create more dialogue. And as David said, at the end, it's a president that was elected, even if he doesn't perform democratically, but he's there. It's a reality as an important business partner for the U.S. And certainly, but one of the things that I always wonder, that I would try to avoid, but that goes beyond and have to do with the nature of values in America, is that there are certain things that you cannot be discussed publicly. For example, I remember that they asked Condi Rice, what do you think about Chavez? Why does a president or a secretary of state has to make a statement of what he thinks about somebody? I think that there are certain things that should be kept in private that you cannot discuss in public.
Yeah, I think also it's a very well-known fact. Countries don't have friends. They have interests.
That's a very cynical thing to say.
That's the way it is. So why does it matter if Obama is nice or not nice? If he's not nice, just things get much complicated. You know, there's business matters at hand. Now, if Mr. Chavez behaves badly towards the U.S. interest, well, he'll have to pay the consequences. Now, taking back to my country, I mean, what the Bush administration did to the Mexico-U.S. relations was a disgrace, like the rest of the world also. So we're really happy of having Obama around. This is a kind of left-of-center audience.
Yeah, very, very suspect.
I think one point that I'd like to make is just...
Sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
I'd just like to make is really I mean, we discussed a lot on the SNS from very early on is the impact of Chavez on the overall sector and how the Chavez brand is being exported to different countries.
It's a very powerful brand.
It's a powerful brand that was very well funded until maybe 6 to 9 months ago. And the issue is really that the biggest Achilles heel that Chavez had in his strategy was oil prices, and they came down. So the question is he going to have enough capability now to really continue to export the brand, the Chavez franchise, into the rest of Central America, even to Mexico? He tried to do that, and down even to Southern Cone. So it's a very important fact that is he going to be capable or not of being able to do that.
The other strong Latin American brand is the Castro brand, and we'll come to that, but I was going to come to you first, Ricardo.
Yeah, the thing is, coming back to the U.S.-Mexico relationship, it's probably the most important relationship for the United States because it's so intertwined. But it's like with a marriage, your most important relationship is with your wife. If you got problems with your wife, you got problems everywhere. So this is the kind of thing with Mexico. Since it's going good, you don't take care of it. But the Mexican-American relationship needs to be taken care of and needs to be nurtured because we're neighbors and we're partners, and we both benefit a lot by being close.
So how? Is it a matter of mood music, of the right speeches being made from
that
this?
That counts,
right, okay.
Little details. Of roles.
Show we care. Show that people care.
Yes. And I think in that respect, the trip of President Obama to Mexico was a huge success. He was there, shaking hands, very impressive.
And beyond rhetoric, policy?
Well, policy, these two issues that overwhelm the relationship is, of course, illegal aliens, like I said, and trafficking. There's solutions to both of it. Now, if you stop to think of it, for example, the immigration problem, the judges say they're illegal immigrants, and they don't look at the illegal employers. But this country needs the waiters, the gardeners, the drivers, They need it, and they know that they're hardworking, honest people who just want to get ahead. And if you think about the world situation, look, think of it. Capital flows. No problem if Walmart or Citibank invest in Mexico. Information flows. God, we have CNN, and they have TV Azteca over here. You know. Merchandise, but not people. Oh, no, that is terrible.
Any sign?
What's the problem with the guest worker program?
Any sign of the recession affecting remittances and migration in any?
You know, remittances are not down so much. They're only down about 6%. But the maquila industry, or the export business in the northern borders, is devastated. I mean, we're looking at drops of 20, 30% in employment, especially in the auto industry, which is mainly sourced in Mexico. So, and now with the swine flu scare, which was a total fraud, we'll talk about that maybe later. But the total fraud, it's just a non-event, except that it scared everybody. Nobody went in terms of tourism, and now it's destroyed the tourism industry and the service industry.
In Venezuela, it's the contrary. Remittances is booming.
Say that again.
And remittance is booming for 2 reasons. Number one, there are a lot of Venezuelans that are flowing the country. Number two, more important, is that the kind of Venezuelans that live, that goes abroad are not like the ones you see in Mexico or Central America, but basically the high middle class that goes to higher positions, so they have more money to remit.
The job is there when they get there.
They go to Miami.
They go to Miami.
Right. Okay.
Or they have their accounts out and they just send part of their savings back to Venezuela to help their relative or friends or whatever.
The upper middle class.
Yes.
The clock's moving on swiftly. I mentioned earlier the Castro brand.
Ah, yes.
David, has Obama dealt with that adequately and correctly, and is there more to be done?
Well, I think it's the start has already happened. You have the opening of the travel, which is very positive. I think it's the first, easing of the pressure. You're starting to see on the Cuban side. Just last week, they just announced the first. It's not a freehold, but it's the first leasehold development that foreigners come by a beachfront. 75-year lease on an apartment. So it's the first time that has happened in the recent years. That's another good step internally. I think that the problem is the pressure from the existing Cuban groups in Florida and in the United States that have had for so many years a strategy of going all hardcore against
and again, it's another thing that doesn't work.
It has not worked.
They keep on doing the same thing for 50 years, doesn't work, and they keep on for another 50 years. Why do something? My definition of being mad is do the same thing, expect a different result. So we do the same thing with Castro, isolate him. And what's the result? Nothing. And for anybody who's been to Cuba, I was there very recently, it's really sad. It's a disgrace what happened to that country. Do
you blame the Americans rather than the Castros? I was there in February too.
Yeah.
And I thought, why doesn't this government just loosen things up?
Well, because Castro's a triumph, and the Cubans have to endure him. But why make it worse on the people by doing stupid things like blockading the country?
What I detect from the three of you is, and there's no prizes for psychology here, but an exasperation and an irritation at the United States. I'm right, aren't I?
With the Bush administration, he achieved the impossible.
But
he united the whole world.
But can Obama change all? I'll have to protect you going out of here. Maybe not. I mean, can Obama change that? Like that? Change a president, and it's all different. It's all sunshine all the way.
I think it's all about that, the rare chance. By pure chance, I became a U.S. citizen 4 years ago, and I never voted. And a friend of mine became the chairman of the National Leadership Council, which ran all the Hispanic side. And the Democrats have traditionally not been very strong because of the Cuba situation in the Hispanic vote, and we were able to. They were able to. I just helped a little. They were able to actually turn around that first mental move on the Hispanic side, and I think that Obama, like anything, leadership is what drives any organization, every country, any business or a home. Obama has what it takes to turn around not only in the United States, but not only within Latin America, but worldwide. I think that at least in my case, makes me very optimistic.
But it doesn't mean it's going to happen, of course.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means that at least there is a chance that there's somebody that wants to try to do it in a logical way. I think that there's a probability now that it can happen. Before, I think that,
I feel as though I'm doing therapy with you three. I mean, I'm doing the therapy on you three. You're so depressive about the future,
I'm very positive.
No, we're positive. Think of it. The U.S. and the United Kingdom have a special relationship. Sure. But still, they're thousands of miles apart. Mexico, a couple of kilometers across the border, and they have a daily interaction across a 2,000-mile border. That needs to be done in a better way.
Nelson, what do you want to see happening?
I'm sorry?
Nelson, wake up.
No. I was, listen.
What do you want to see happening, and what do you want from Obama?
I think that he's doing the right things. Again, I agree basically with, I have the same view that Mark Anderson shared with the audience yesterday. I am very optimistic. I think the change was needed for this country. And basically, I would like to see that he devote more time to Latin America, that you understand that it is so close, as Ricardo was saying. It's not only a few kilometers, it's just a few centimeters, few feet. And it could have more long-term impact, and you're devoting a lot more time to issues that they're very far away, like Afghanistan or Pakistan, when you have, look, the population you have here, just starting with that. And how you're changing your demography. See, Afghanistan is not changing your demography.
Sure. The clock's against. I heard the word optimism in what you just said, so we should conclude there. Thank you all very much indeed.
Sure.
Thank you.